KCC105 for week number 9. We need to find a big data set. It'll generate a big question and give us a topic for our final graphic in the course. You saw on Blackboard, here's an older graphic we made, good graphic. I want to frame these with a question. A question kind of brings the reader in and say, well, what's going on with the data? How do you get a good question? You need a good data set. So I have a link of some data. Now, we saw some before, BLS and all that sort of thing. This is going to be a whirlwind video. I'm going to run through those data links and let's see what's in there. See what we might generate some good questions. First one, airline data project. So I click that one. Here's information about different airlines in the country, and I click data, and they have lots of different topics that you can download. I'm going to go to traffic, airline traffic, revenue passenger miles, how many people went how many miles, and go down here, and I could find it by airline, which United Airlines. They fly out of Chicago. Look at this, time sequence data. Over time, RPM, revenue passenger miles, how many people flew how many miles. I could say, are more people flying, less people, and that sort of thing for different airlines. I could create an index. I could compare this. Copy and paste this data in Excel, because it's not in Excel automatically, but lots of good time sequence data there. Next up, Zillow. Maybe you know this website for real estate prices. Lots of information here. I'm going to roll down to rental indices. If you rent an apartment, you know, hey, that's a big part of your budget, and you got to understand the costs. Look at this, 2-bedroom apartments. They have data on that, so I click data, download it to Excel. This one comes directly in Excel instead of the other one. And I have different states. I have different prices for the median prices for 2 bedrooms. I have it over time. So you can say from 2010, 13, 14, month by month, they have all these figures. You can create indexes and compare this to different states, compare it to inflation. Lots of good information here. What else are we looking at? Bureau of Transportation statistics. So I click here. RPM, revenue passenger miles, just like in the airline website. They have vehicle travel. So if you're talking about highways, I'm going to look at, where is it? Public rider transportation. Public transit. So I click on that, and they give you the graph directly. Well, that's for your job to create. But if you hit download selected, you can get this data. You could create an index. How many public transit versus inflation versus income versus lots of different things. So there's a potential data set for you to look at. Climate data. Temperature, different locations, temperature in Chicago versus Chicago, New York. I'll let you investigate that. Kids count. I like this website a lot. The kids count has lots of information about early childhood statistics. So I'm going to look at this education, early childhood education. I click it here, and they give lots of information. They say, okay, the children out in school, Head Start enrollment. Okay, so I click that. Click the link. It's playing games with me here. Dear. Well, there we go. You get the idea. I'll let you dig in more, but time sequence data, and if this is not enough, you could click some more thing, or you could download it in Excel, and they have it state by state. You could say how many kids are in Head Start in Alabama versus Arizona. Lots of different ways to use that data, investigate. BLS consumer prices, we use that during class, so I'm not going to go over it again, but you can say, hey, compare the chocolate chip cookies people use, ribeye steaks, all that sort of thing. But down here, BLS wages, we didn't check out this, but it's really a similar type of thing. I seasonally adjusted, click the next form. They have all these different types of jobs, so I'm going to go to leisure and hospitality, because Calendar has a lot of culinary, and let's see, what are we looking at? We want to look at the average hourly rates, and then all these different ways that you could work in the hospitality industry. And I'm looking into, look at this restaurant. So I click next form and retrieve data, and then it shoots out. Here's the hourly wages across the country over time. Wow, that's fantastic data. Say, here's the wages. Maybe compare that to inflation. How are things doing? Compare that to the rent from the other thing. Lots of different ways we can compare things. Sports reference. Hey, if you want to have a little fun with your data here, I can look at, let's say, football. Hey, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I click Buffalo Bills and franchise encyclopedia. And this will give me the record for Buffalo Bills over the past, oh my goodness, what is it, 60 years. I could say how many points did they score. I could look at the rankings. I could look at their wins and losses. Lots of time sequence data here, and you compare two teams to another. That you could have some fun with that. All right, OECD, the last one I'll look at here, but this is an international website that has statistics from different countries. Let's look at employment in particular. I'm clicking employment. You see the employment rates in lots of different countries. Switzerland's way at the top, way down here. Turkey's the lowest end. But you know what? This is a graph. That's your job to create the graph. Let's look at the data. So I click data right here, and now I have time sequence data from 2000 to 2016. You can look at, say, Australia and look at their employment rates. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? And you can look at it between men and women. So if you click export, they have it, and you can click it down to Excel right here, and you can see some really interesting trends in this data, comparing employment to look at all this other data. So there's lots of things you can compare You don't just necessarily have to do inflation in a consumer price. You can compare employment, transportation, well, sports are sort of on its own, but wages, lots of information. Hopefully that puts some ideas in your brain, make a big question, find some data, and put those together in a graphic for, I'm sorry, not in a graphic, but put your ideas, your topics together for week number 9. Week number 10, the graphic will come. If you have any more questions about digging through this data, how to find them, or any questions about what a big question is, please reach out via email.